Season's coming up here, only 5 days away. We're going to start out here with a depth chart preview. Hi, how's it going, guys? Happy to be back talking some Penn State football. I think this team can make the playoff this year. If you're looking at the dynamics of college football and the SEC, I think only one team's getting out. As long as Alabama beats Georgia, let's say again in the SEC championship, should they play again, then Alabama will get in, undefeated Clemson would get in, and then let's say an undefeated Ohio State gets in if they beat us. Really, the only thing I think would compete with is an undefeated Oregon, which we might get in anyways. I don't know in that situation. All right, we'll get into the depth chart here, starting off with quarterback. Sean Clifford, a guy that I expect to improve a whole lot. Um, he's a guy that under Kirk Shiraka, I think will have a really good season. I expect him to be really good because he has the experience now. Levis is a good backup option, played well against Ohio State last year. And Taquan Roberson and Micah Bowens are two guys that I expect not to play right away, but maybe in a couple years might be starters. And then the running back situation, as of now, Jordan Brown, I'm putting him number one still, but obviously just came out unfortunately about his medical condition that could potentially make him miss all season, and yeah, it's really disappointing. But behind him, you got four-star running backs, and Noah Kane, Devin Ford, Keziah Holmes, Kevon Lee, especially Noah Kane. I think he did really well last year. I'm looking for them to step up in Brown's place and do a really good job this year. Receiver, we got Jahan Dotson. I think he'll be a very good receiver this year. I think KJ Hamler, being gone, does a lot for Dotson's targets. And then TJ Jones, the guy I'm hearing, is a pretty good receiver as well. When they put him in, I think he'll do some good things. And Jaden Dotton's a guy that shouldn't get much playing time right away, but I think that he probably will here in a couple years. Um, at the X, Daniel George, a talented guy that hasn't done too much at Penn State so far. He's now in his third season. Well, he's a redshirt sophomore. He's a guy that I expect to do some good things if they really need him. I think we had a ton of options at receiver. I think he's one of those guys. I think we only need maybe two or three guys to break out this year. Cam Sullivan Brown's another guy that can possibly break out. Norville Black and Malik Maiga. Black might get some time in certain situations. Maiga shouldn't get much time. Um, Maybe a guy you look for a couple years down the road to be pretty good. And then Keandre Lambert and Parker Washington, two true freshmen that I'm hearing a lot of really good things about. Um, and I expect Lambert to be starting at some point this season. And Parker Washington, I expect him to do a lot of good things. I expect those two to get a lot more playing time as the season goes on, maybe even right away. We'll see. But yeah, I'm really excited about the possibility of what the receivers can do this year. Then we got on the O line Rasheed Walker, a good left tackle. Expect him to do some good things. I think he'll be going off to the NFL after this season. Des Holmes, solid tackle option. I think he can do some good things. Hopefully, he won't have to be put in, but at some point, he probably will be. Um, Jimmy Christ, a guy that won't get much time unless there are injuries, but he's a guy in a couple years might be a starter. Left guard, I think Mike Miranda. Having some experience last year at right guard will do some good things at left guard as well. Then Salim Wormley's a good backup option. I'm excited for what he can do if they have to put him in. And then Nick Dawkins, I don't expect him to get time unless there's injuries, but we'll see what he can do if he's put in. Hopefully, they don't have to put him in here for a couple years. Uh, and then at center, Michael Mennett, very rock solid center. It's nice to have him back. Juice Scruggs, guy that got injured last year from a car accident, and I expect him to do some good things to put him in. He might be a little rusty at first, but I think he's a good, talented option. Then Nick Dawkins might play center in his career. I don't know if he's going to play center or guard, but like I said, don't look for him to get time this year. But in a couple years, who knows? He might be a starter. So we'll see how he does if he's put in garbage time. And then at right guard, CJ Thorpe, very good run blocking guard. I don't think he's quite there as far as pass blocking goes yet, but I think that he can do some good things this season. Anthony Wigan, a JUCO transfer from last year. Uh, I think that he has some potential to do some good things. I'm not exactly sure how good he is, but we'll find out if he's put in. And then Olafashanu, a true freshman. Don't look for him to get time here for a couple years. Then at right tackle, Will Fries, good option at right tackle. Um, I do think though that he has room to improve. I think he has done a solid job. I think he's done even a good job at Penn State, but he's had his moments where you're thinking, "Oh, come on, Will." And then I think Caden Wallace might take over his spot if Fries doesn't play well enough. And then at tight end, Pat Fryermuth. Um, I think he's the best tight end in the country, simply put. I'm very excited for what he can do. It's nice to have him back. I would have left to go to the NFL last year if I were him, even without COVID after last season. But, it's obviously his decision, and, we'll welcome him back with open arms. And then Zach Kuntz, Brenton Strange, Theo Johnson, all three of them, very good, talented options in case Fryermuth goes down or whatever happens. I think next year, all three of those guys are competing for the tight end spot. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Shaka Tony, it's great to have him back. I expect him to do even better than last year. Disa Isaac did really well last year as a true freshman. Just look for him to get better. Nick Tarburton, I'm hearing, can get some time. And then Kazai Izzard, a true freshman. I don't expect him to get time, but maybe with here in a couple of years, maybe even next year, I don't know. We'll see. He can start getting some time. The other DN spot, Jason Oweh, a guy that's projected on a lot of mock drafts as a first round pick. Very talented, very athletic. He hasn't done too much at Penn State. He's had his moments, but he hasn't been a great productive player necessarily, and I expect him to maybe have that kind of year this season. Shane Simmons, Smith Vilbert should get some time behind Oweh. Then Bryce Mostella and Mean Vanover, true freshman, shouldn't get time, but we'll see how they do here in a few years when they develop. All right, at linebacker, the will linebacker spot, Jesse Luketa is taking over that spot for Micah Parsons. Yes, it sucks to lose Micah Parsons, but Jesse Luketa, I think, is a very good option and will show at Big Ten that we have really good depth at linebacker. And then Charlie Katcher and Curtis Jacobs, two guys I expect to get some time um, in backup roles. I think they're both good, solid backup linebacker options. At the tackle, Antonio Shelton's returning. Fred Hansard is a guy that I expect to get some time as well. Keem Beeman, I think, will make an impact. Joseph Dark was an interesting prospect. Tormo Moba, true freshman coming in. My high school played him. He didn't do too much, and I think he has a lot of time to figure out how to play the style of football he needs to play, but I don't think he'll get time right away. At the other D tackle spot, PJ Mustipher, a really talented option. I'm excited he's starting this year. I think he's done some good things in his career. Judge Culpepper should get some time. Devon Ellies, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets some time. Enos Hawkins, I think, will have his chance to make an impact. Cole Brevard, I don't expect to get playing time right away unless it's garbage time, but I think he has a lot of potential to be a good player throughout his career. And Mike linebacker Ellis Brooks, I think, is an underrated linebacker. I think he has a lot of potential to do really well this year. Curtis Jacobs, I think, can play the mic as well. Look for him to be playing as a true freshman in a backup role, sort of kind of what Brandon Smith did last year. Uh, and then Tyler Elsdon, another true freshman. I don't think he'll get that much time in his freshman year, but in a few years, hopefully, he'll be a good linebacker option for us. Sam linebacker, I think Brandon Smith has a ton of potential, really athletic, really good linebacker. I think will be a breakout candidate for us this season. Lance Dixon, another good talented option. Zariah Fisher as a true freshman. I'm hearing he might get some playing time. Um, he played some defensive line in high school. I'm excited for what he can do throughout his career. And at corner, Tyree Custer Fields is now the number one guy at corner. Um, he had some bad moments last year, but he also had some good moments. And from what I hear, he was injured for a decent portion of last season. And I'm hoping that he puts those bad moments behind him. I hope he's fully healthy now and he can do some really good things. Joey Porter Jr., a guy that I'm hearing has done some really good things this offseason. I think he can do really well this season. At the other corner spot, Keaton Ellis, now inserted into a starting role. Donovan Johnson was supposed to be a starter, but he got injured. Now Keaton Ellis is there. Um, I expect him to do some good things. I think he had some pretty good moments last year. Marquise Wilson, another corner, I think has a lot of potential to do really well. Um, Joseph Johnson, a true freshman. I don't expect him to get a ton of time, but who knows? He might get in case of injuries. And then at safety, Lamont Wade, I think, is really good safety. He had a really good game against Ohio State last year, at least when it came to forcing fumbles. Um, Tyler Rudolph, another talented safety. I think he has a lot of potential. Trenton Gordon moved from corner to safety. I think he might see the field some. Then Drew Hartlaub, I'm pretty sure he's a really fast guy. I'm not so sure how much time he'll get, probably just on special teams, but he's a good fast option if they need him. Jaquan Brisker at the other safety spot. Um, I think he is a really good safety for us. I think that he can do even better than what he did last year. Jair Brown, a JUCO transfer. Jonathan Sutherland, wearing number 0 now, supposed to be the top guy on special teams. Enzo Jennings, true freshman coming in, talented option. Getting into special teams, Jake Pinniger will be the kicker. Jordan Stout will be kind of like the long range kicker on long field goals. Rafael Checa, kind of a backup option in case somebody gets hurt. Maybe somebody starts playing really poorly. Um, Overall, I think Pinniger will just get better, and I think Stout, can make those long field goals as well. I think overall, special teams from the kicking point of view will be pretty good. Jordan Stout will also be the punter this year. We know he has a big leg. He really showed it on kickoffs, and I think that when it comes to punting, I don't know how good he is at placing the ball. He'll replace Blake Gillikin, but I think that Stout will do just a good job. I don't see him being somebody that's going to have a bunch of bad punts. I think he'll have good long boots for Penn State, and he'll probably be good enough to place it inside the 10, inside the 20 when he needs to. And then, I don't know how to feel about this season. It's obviously been a weird year, 2020. I've just been thinking a whole lot about, what could have been if it was like a normal season. Going into this week, we would be going into the Ohio State game, and if it was normal circumstances, we would be 6-0. I think we would be anyways. Um, and going into a huge game against Ohio State, whiteout crowd, um, with Micah Parsons, Journey Brown with that medical condition, even under normal circumstances, I guess might not even be playing. This would be a big story, anyways. But um, it's just obviously very disappointing how this year in general, when it comes to not just football but the whole world. But we're lucky we get to see Penn State play this year. Um, I think they have a very good opportunity to do well. I think even without Journey Brown, I think they're the second best team in the Big Ten. And I still think they have a shot at the playoff. And even if they, even if Journey Brown comes back, they said potentially miss the season. Um, I don't really know how much of a chance it is that he can miss the whole season. I don't know whether that's a 10% chance to miss the season or 90% chance to miss the season, or probably only miss like a few games and come back, or whether it just he's relying on a few tests or whatever, and maybe he can come back against Ohio State. I have no idea how this is all going to shake out. But like I said about the playoff picture, I think that, like I said, I think Alabama is getting in if they go undefeated the rest of the way, which I think they will. Let's say Georgia wins the rest of their games and gets the SEC championship and loses to Alabama. Then I would think the only team that gets into the playoff from the SEC would probably be Alabama. You can make an argument for, say, like a one-loss Texas A&M. If they win out and their only loss is to Alabama, then they'll probably have a very good case to make, but I don't know if they would get in. Um, and then and then you look at the Pac-12. It really just depends on, if they have an undefeated team, they're probably getting in unless um, somebody else looks really good. But I would think an undefeated Pac-12 team probably will get in. And then Big 12, I think, is pretty much out. The only team in the Big 12 I think is alive is Oklahoma State. And I think once they start playing the better teams in the Big 12, like Oklahoma and Texas, they'll start losing. And the Big 12 will basically be out. And I think Clemson will go undefeated. Um, I think they'll go to the playoff, be like either the number one or number two. And let's say Ohio State beats us, they go undefeated, win the Big Ten. Let's say we lose to Ohio State, but go 8-1. Have a good win against, say, like a Minnesota at the end of the year in that championship week game. I think we'll have a very strong case because if those scenarios, let's say Oregon goes undefeated, then it would probably just be between like a one-loss Texas A&M, who I don't even know if they're going to finish the season with one loss or not. They still have, obviously a lot of football left to play. They have a lot more opportunities to lose, but um, let's say a one-loss Texas A&M, one-loss Penn State, and an undefeated Oregon. In that situation, I would think they'd probably put in an undefeated Oregon. But if Oregon slips up, or as long as there's not an undefeated Pac-12 champion, I think they're out, and it would probably be between like a one-loss Texas A&M and one-loss Penn State. And in that situation, I wouldn't be surprised they put Texas A&M in. But if we play really well against Ohio State, let's say Journey Brown might come back later in the season and we look even better than we did against Ohio State, and they think the committee thinks that we're one of the top four teams, they might put us in, and that's what I'm hoping happens. And at the end of the day, we'll see. It's hopefully going to be a good year for us. It's obviously been difficult. Um, as far as how the roster is shaked out the last couple months from Micah leaving and now Journey looking like he might miss the whole season. But, well, anyways, um, I'm just happy we have Penn State football to watch. Excited for this Saturday against Indiana. Should be a pretty good game. I think that Penn State better make sure they give 100% in this one. They can't slack. They got to make sure that they win because I know they got Ohio State the next week, but Indiana's a very, very competitive opponent, and they're good enough where you really have to worry about them, but they're also like Indiana. So I don't want people to get too tricked by, oh, Indiana sucks. They're not. They're a very, very solid team that's very capable of upsetting Penn State. All right, well, thank you guys. Um, we'll be back maybe sometime this week talking some more Penn State football. Thank you. We are Penn State.